Good morning, Unity. Welcome to this beautiful morning. It's a beautiful morning, isn't it? It is an amazing morning. And the weather's not bad either. And whether you're here with us in person, whether you're online watching live or watching during the week, wherever you are, know that it is always a beautiful day in your consciousness, yes? And sometimes the weather's pretty good too. Oh, what a beautiful morning. You know, that reminds me. One of my I used to love musicals as a kid. I guess I still do love musicals. And one of my favorites was Oklahoma. Do you remember that one? Those wonderful, it had wonderful, it was a love story. It had wonderful music and dancing. It was tragedy. There was drama. There was gossip. It was something for everyone. Remember the songs? Like Oklahoma, ready? Together? Comes rushing down. We kind of remember, yeah, yeah. Or Surrey with the Fringe on Top. Yeah, that was one of my favorite. So my favorite song, you know what it was? Oh, the farmer and the cowboy should be friends. Oh, the farmer and the cowboy should be friends. Do you remember that one? That was like the epic. I mean, that was really the whole part of the movie. That was what the movie was about, wasn't it? Well, it's interesting because the movie was set in the early 1900s when the big rush and the farming into the heartland of America was happening. And what's very interesting is 30 years later, IRL, that song was true. That song was really what it was all about because 30 years later, in the 30s, do you remember what happened? There was what we call the Great Dust Bowl. Because there were a number of things. First, there was a record length drought. There was record heats. And it really peaked in 1935, and farms were failing left and right. Throughout the heartland, farms were failing. So it was due in part because of the drought, but also because of farming practices. They went in and they farmed everything, and they didn't have the technology that we have today. They didn't have the understanding that we had today. And so it was a very big trauma that was happening at that time. And this was really in the middle, what I like to call liminal times, right in the middle of the 30s, because what happened in the 20s, the roaring 20s, there was a giant shift in culture. There was a giant shift in what people were wearing, what people were listening to. There was a shift in women's rights. There was a great shift in culture. There was a big drought, and then there was also World War II. There were times when everything was shifting. They were in a liminal time, and that's when liminal means that when we're not quite one thing, but we're not quite another yet. We're in the middle of transition, right? We have this one set of ideas and experiences, and then there's another set of ideas and experiences, and we're somewhere in the middle. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what to do next, where the old patterns and the old habits didn't work anymore. What's interesting is out of that period of the Dust Bowl came innovation. We were forced to innovate. And that's what happens during liminal times, is that what we were doing in the past doesn't work anymore. And so they were forced to innovate. And in the farming industry, they created new irrigation technologies. They learned soil conservation techniques. All of this came out of this period of the Dust Bowl. By the end of the 30s, 1939 or so, 75% of the topsoil in the heartland of America was gone. 75% of the topsoil in the middle of our country was gone because of this experience. And there's, of course, wonderful books, The Grapes of Wrath, wonderful stories about what it was like. And one person wrote, every movement at that time created dust. Someone walking along the path created great plumes of dust. Horses, carriages, whatever was moving in that time, created this giant cloud of dust, and that's why they called it the Dust Bowl. And so out of that trauma came these new techniques, and of course, one of those techniques was the idea of rotating grazing. So you've got your big farm, and you set aside one part of your farm for your cattle, for bison, for animals to graze on, to replenish the soil. So it was true. The cowboys and the farmers should have been friends. We live in liminal times today. We live in times when culture is shifting. dramatically. We live in times when there is a lot of strain in our country because we might think about things differently. And that strain is being churned up like the Dust Bowl. And unless we allow ourselves to innovate, to shift our consciousness, it's going to be very challenging for us. All the things that we did in the past don't always work as we move forward. And so we need to begin to innovate in ways that are healthy and productive for all. How do we live in liminal times? How do we live in this time when things seem to be shifting beneath us, where the ground seems to be, dust, where we're not sure where we're headed. We're not sure how to get through that. Well, to understand this, what I've done is taken a leap back over 2,000 years to listen to some of the lessons that the master teacher, Jesus the Christ, said. Let's start with Luke chapter 17, verse 21 through 20 to 21. How do you live in liminal times? Now, this is the story about the kingdom of God. Where's the kingdom of God? How do I find the kingdom of God? Jesus was asked by the Pharisees, how do you do this? And he said, the kingdom of God is not coming with things that can be observed. Nor will they say, look, it's over here, or look, it's up there. For in fact, the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. So that's our first step, and in fact, our first principle. There's only one presence and one power active in the world and in the universe, God. That's all there is. That energy, that experience, that love, that power is within us and always present within us. And so when he started to talk about the parables, he was really rooted in that truth and that understanding or that belief that God is present within all of us. And you may call it God or isness or divine mind or the universe or infinite intelligence, but that is within you. And that is what unity calls the Christ consciousness or the divine consciousness, that spark within you that knows who you are, that knows your oneness with God, as we sang about this morning. And so the kingdom, God's kingdom, isn't here or there, but it's here. And it's all among us. It's closer than the sun, nearer than the air. It's closer than the breath that we breathe. That kingdom of God is present. That is the ultimate reality, as Unity likes to put it. That's the idea that God is. And that we are in that experience. And so the presence of God is here at now. Not only that, the presence of God is at hand. The kingdom is at hand. It's not something in the future. It's not some future date that someone predicted in the past. It's not coming by some event, right? It's just here. That's what he taught 2,000 years ago. And it's still here. It's still available to us when we make the choice to open up to that idea. On April 27th, our April 27th talk, I mentioned the idea of the parable of the sower. Right? That in that dust bowl in our mind, we are the sower. We are throwing our seeds left and right. Our seeds are the thoughts, the divine ideas. And some of those seeds land on thorny ground. Some of those seeds land on the path and the birds come and take it away. Some of those seeds land in the rock and don't have good soil. But some of it lands in good soil. And the whole point of that parable is that we are in charge of our soil. We are in charge of the seeds that we're throwing. And we are in charge of how we maintain that. That's up to us. So what seed thoughts are you holding? Are you holding on to ideas of gossip? Oh gosh, that was so last Thursday. Literally true. Are you holding on to those ideas of lack and limitation? Those ideas that I'm not enough. Because we know that as we hold on to those ideas, that becomes the lens through which we see the world. We experience the world. And we act in the world. And so we own the seeds that we are planting, and we own the soil. We have to plant them in fertile soil. We have to be open and receptive. We have to be willing to look at things a little differently, willing to let go of the things that we're holding on to, of the need to be right, and all of the things that we think are perfect, so that we can be curious and see what else is available to us. How else can we farm before our mind becomes the dust bowl in ourselves? Before we become that dust bowl in our thinking. Before we become and experience that lack and limitation. So we own the process of selecting which seeds we're going to plant in our lives every day. We own the process of deciding how we're going to sow those seeds. And then we own the process of nurturing the seed, of taking care of it. And sometimes weeds pop up. Has anybody ever gardened? Have you ever gardened and there have been no weeds ever popping up? No, weeds happen. Weeds come flying in on the wind. I don't know how, but we've got these two beautiful iris bulbs with beautiful flowers that we never planted. There was a deck over them since the 80s. We took out the deck, and then like last year, they sprouted. They were under the ground there. They had to have been for 40, 30 years just hanging out. And all of a sudden, we have beautiful flowers. I didn't pull them because I liked them. I didn't pull them because I thought they were beautiful. But there are some weeds that I'm ruthless with. I have pets, so foxtails, right out the door. Anything with burrs, I pull those immediately. I did have a love relationship with the dandelion. Of course, my parents did not have a love relationship with the dandelion. We have weeds that pop up in our garden, in our thoughts. And it's up to us to pull those weeds out, to discern and to nurture the plants that we want to grow, to nurture them. That's our job. I love this parable from Mark. Mark went a little deeper into it. In Mark chapter 24, verses 26 through 29, listen to this. The kingdom of God is as if someone scattered seeds in the ground and would sleep and rise night and day, and the seed would sprout and grow. He doesn't know how. The earth produces of itself first the stalk, then the head, then the full grain in the head, and then when the grain is ripe, at once he goes with a sickle because the harvest time has come. We have the job of planting the seed, of selecting the seed, of tending the seed, of pulling the weeds, of watering it and nurturing it. We don't have the responsibility of making the seed grow, do we? No. That's God, the good, omnipotence. That's the universe taking its path. We plant the seed and we tend to it, and then the seed grows by itself. The seed sprouts. The seed begins to grow. Pretty soon, the corn is as high as an elephant's eye. And when it gets to that point, then we harvest it. That's our job. Well, what happens if we don't harvest it? It dies. So it goes through its natural cycle. That's what we call divine order. Divine order is this natural cycle of life. What you plant grows. If you're planting weeds, guess what? They grow. If you're like me, picking that dandelion and blowing it and scattering the fairies to the wind, guess what? They grow. Unfortunately, in my yard, as my parents told me. That which we plant, we grow. We're not responsible for how it grows. That's not on us. But we have to select the seeds and nurture it and care for it. Pull the weeds if we want our good to grow. God is in charge. The universe is in charge of everything else. And for some reason, it doesn't happen overnight. Anybody notice that? There are seasons. You plant it, you nurture it, and you wait. There's nothing there. You wonder if it's coming up. You don't dig it up and see, are you growing? And then put it back. No. You leave it. And it sprouts and it grows. Nature provides the rest. This divine order is in process. And if you do your part, divine order does its natural part. If you want to have more good, more joy, more happiness, more comfort in your life, then plant seeds that will create that for you. And weed out every seed that is not. As we allow those things, be aware of the times when you need to shift. You need to rotate your crop. You need to bring in new soil or find new soil. Maybe add new seeds, different kinds of seeds. You need to shift your thoughts when things aren't working for you. When the weeds are popping up and only weeds are coming up, it's time to, dig it all up and start over again. But know when it's time to let go of the old habits, the old thoughts, the old experiences that are keeping us stuck, that are creating the dust bowl in our mind. We live in liminal times, and we can't always know what the right thing to do is in the future. What we did in the past doesn't always work now. And so we have to come up with something different. We have to be willing to let go of the old that's worn out and step into some new idea, a new way of being. Now, we're doing that here at Unity Palo Alto. That's part of our spiritual community because we're always looking to our purpose to help people transform their lives, to inspire people to transform their lives, and to make a positive difference in the world. And that spiritual transformation, that spiritual growth comes when we let go of that which no longer serves us and say yes to God. To get back into that kingdom of heaven, that kingdom of God consciousness within us. We let go of those things that aren't working for us anymore. We sense, well, where is the energy heading? That's what innovation is. Let's try some things. Let's do some things differently. Let's see how it shows up. And so as a spiritual community, that's what we're doing here. In fact, the board is meeting on Thursday to look at new ways in which we'll be spreading our seeds into the world, marketing into the world, as we call it today, and how we might do that differently. And you can join us on Thursday if you want to learn more about that. But we are here to be that growth. We're all here to grow and to transform our consciousness, to grow spiritually so that we can experience more of the fruits of our labors, to experience more of the goodness that divine order creates for us when we select and plant that which is nurturing, that which is sustaining, that which lifts us up. There are 3 steps. The first one, turn within daily. Turn within daily. Turn within daily. We talk about the daily practice all the time, and I have to tell you, I don't always do it, but I do it a lot. And the days that I do it, I am blessed. I'm more calm. I'm more in the flow of life. I'm more present. When I do my meditation, sometimes I do a little yoga, sometimes I do a little Tai Chi, sometimes I do my walks. I do spiritual writing. All of the things that we do to create that sense, that spirituality within you for yourself. Whatever your practices are, and if you don't have any, we have a lot of practices that you can pick up and try. Do a little experiment. Try it for 10 days. Do it diligently and see how it changes you. Then shift it up and try something different. Rotate your crops. Allow yourself to try something different, but do it daily. Develop your spiritual health, your spiritual healthy practices, things that are working for you. Tend to your mindset. You own the soil, you own the seeds, you own the watering, you own the weeds. Even if it's coming from the neighbor's yard. They're in your soil. They're in your thoughts. You own the process of sowing your seeds and keeping your mind spiritual. And finally, the third thing is faith. Faith is the knowing that the seed is growing. Faith is the knowing that there will be something new. Even if you're not aware of what it is, even if you don't know what you planted, right? If you continue to lift up your own consciousness, that faith in being present and being patient and knowing that if you keep doing it, your good will manifest in you. It will manifest in you as confidence and clarity, as comfort and ease. Even as the external world seems like a dust bowl, there's a paradise within you, in your consciousness, when you're holding those ideas with faith. I'd like to move to our affirmation, Felix. I'm going to read our affirmation for the day and then invite you to affirm it with me. And just allow it to sink in as I read it. Allow it to fill you up without any stress or without any strain. Today, I focus on God within. I release weed thoughts and nurture thoughts of harmony, peace, and prosperity. Would you affirm that with me together? Today, I focus on God within. I release weed thoughts and nurture thoughts of harmony, peace, and prosperity. And so it is. I'd like to conclude with this poem from my mom's poetry book, Joyce Riley, Colored This Day Beautiful, which you can find in the bookstore and on Amazon. This is called From Seed to Sprout to Me by Joyce Riley. A seed expanded and became a sprout. The sprout extended and then burst out. Struggling through darkness made it strong. Now it's in the light where it belongs. I was a seed becoming a sprout, ever expanding and reaching out. When I broke through fear and the tension, I saw the light of a new dimension. Did the little seed know it was a tree any more than I knew what I would be? Perhaps there is no way of ever knowing, but either way, we're still growing. Let's take that into our, thank you.